All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. Today is Wednesday, March 26th of 2025. And looking ahead here, we have a 6-game NBA main slate today. We have a 4-game NHL main slate. And then tomorrow we have golf teeing off early. And then we have MLB opening day, which is going to be kind of an all-day thing. So it should be a super exciting couple days here. We're very excited for MLB to get underway. And then we also have UFL starting on Friday. So all of the spring sports getting under action. If you guys aren't signed up with us, want to check us out, we have a 5-day no strings attached free trial. You can find details to that in the description of this video. But for those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew, one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. This is a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS related questions. Get your questions in one of 3 ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord and want to get access to that channel, there is a link in the description of this video. You also get access to our similar channels, individual sport channels, and you also get access to the rest of the SaberSim teams. Can't say enough good things about the Discord. But with that said, we do this show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and then we do this show on Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in any one of those days, get your questions answered. Let's get SaberSim up here. I think we're going to be focusing on some MLB stuff today, which is like totally cool. We did have one question come in prior to the show. Question from Deshaun. So let's talk team totals, right? So there is an order of operations that need to occur when you're bumping team totals. Doesn't matter what sport you're doing it for. Works the same for all of them. And we go to a build. So I'm going to remove the question so we can see the whole screen here. I'm actually going to remove my face. So when you do this, right, you go over to team stacks and then you go to this projected points column. Okay. So let's say I want to bump up the Clippers from say 110 to 120. Okay. Then you get this message down here on the bottom. This is why I remove my face. It says apply changes to game. And then you go over here and you click yes. There's one more step after this. Okay. So you go back to players. Notice your changes aren't showing up automatically here, right? So what happens, like let's go and filter for Clippers. Okay, so totals have changed slightly here. Okay, but what's important is that you come in and you click this gear icon and then you switch it to this SaberSim adjusted source. Okay, so when you switch it, then all of the new projections, which are showing up in this adjusted SaberSim projection column, now become the projections that are being used. So it's important to switch the source here, right? A couple other things to be aware of. So like this is kind of an interesting one, right? We bumped up the Clippers and then we noticed like, hey, James Harden kind of went down. Well, sometimes what can happen here, right, is that now we've made the spread so big that you got to remember how this works. So what we do, right, is that we start filtering out sims. I'll put my face back, actually, because it should be fine. So what we do here, right, is that, okay, this used to be like a 4-point game. We've made it a 14-point game. So in order to do this, what we do is we start out with all our sims, right? Well, we just start discarding sims that are close in total, and then we filter out enough sims to where the new mean team totals are what you put in. Okay, so now you're optimizing for this blowout. Well, in blowouts, starters usually play less. Bench players end up playing more. So to me, that's kind of a reason why we could see somebody like James Harden's points go slightly down here, because maybe he's in the game less often because it's not a close game anymore. Okay, so other thing to be aware of is that there is a certain number of sims that are required to be available. So like, let's say you set this to 120 and then let's say you set it to 130 and then you set it to 140 and you're trying to see all the differences here. There's going to come a point where, 150 and 200, you don't see any changes in the projections. It's because we've basically already hit the sim threshold. We're like, hey, we need at a minimum this many sims available. Well, if you are setting it so high where there are not enough sims available, we will just stop filtering. So that is another thing to be aware of when it comes to adjusting team totals, is that there is a cap on how high you can go basically and still see adjustments. Okay. So those are big things with team totals here. It will impact your builds. And the reason for that is because you are changing the projections, right? Remember, when we build your lineups, the builder is looking in the my projection column. That's why it's important to come in here and switch it to that adjusted one, because the builder is looking in the my projection and using whatever values are here to build your lineups. So increasing team totals, switching the source, and then building lineups will impact your build. So you could get to more of that team, less of that team. The sims available are going to be different every time we go to pull your lineups. So it will 100% have an impact on your builds. It will also have an impact on your contest sims, right? If you're using contest sims and you have adjusted team totals and you are running your sims based on those new projections that go with those team total adjustments, that would be taken into account as well, right? So not only do team totals impact your builds, they also impact your contest sims and your ROIs and all of those things as well. All right. Good question there. Big J said, thanks for your help last week, Andrew. If I have a lineup I don't want to change, what steps do I need to take in order to upload SaberSim lineups without changing the one I don't want change? Make sense. First off, you're welcome. I'm happy we were able to work that out. Second part, so this is going to kind of depend. There's two ways this could be. Number one is, let's say you are playing two contests. You're playing a 20 max and a single entry. Maybe you've hand built the single entry lineup and you want to leave it as is. Okay. So what I would do in that case is, when I build my lineups, let's just build some lineups real quick. And we're just building. I just want to get to 20 here. 20 should be fine. All right, cool. I'm going to stop this. All right, so we said we're playing a 20 max in a single entry, right? Let's say you built the single entry, or you hand built the single entry, you want to do the 20. Okay, then what you do is, this says download lineups because I don't have an entries file uploaded. But if I did, it would say save to contests. You come into this drop down, and then you uncheck the single entry, and then you build your 20 lineups. You save the 20, and they will only go to the 20 max, and they won't impact the single entry. Okay, so that's how to do that if it's two separate contests. Now, if it is not two separate contests, if you are saying, well, I wanted to hand build, one lineup, I wanted to hand build 5 lineups in the 20 max, and then use SaberSim to fill in the rest, that's going to be a little bit trickier. Now, the way you most likely have to do this is to actually use this download lineups button. So you use this download lineups button. Okay, notice this file says lineups. Okay, so I click on this, and then I get a CSV download that looks like this. So what you do in this case is you go and you take these lineups. Say I hand built 5 and I want to use SaberSim for the other 15 in my 20 max. Okay, so I open up this lineups CSV. I would grab the top 15 lineups. You copy these, and then you go and then you open up your DK sheet. So where I would get that is, I would go to the contest tab. I would go to upload entries. I would use the download template file button to download this DK entries option here. I don't have any entries for the slate right now. So, but what you would do, right, is you would open this up and then you would copy and paste the lineups into the empty rows where there are contests. So there would be contests here, right? You're going to have 20 rows because you've reserved a 20 max. These top 5 will be all filled out because they're 5 hand-built lineups. And then you would go and then you would copy or you would paste the other 15 lineups in. Now they would all be filled out with your hand-built. And then I would come in, save this. I can close it, and then I can upload that back to the fantasy site. So that is how to do it if you are doing it within a single contest. So one of those two options should work for you here. All right. Big J said that answers my question perfectly. Thank you. Awesome. Glad we were able to knock that out with one of the two options. All right. Phil say, can you show how to make a group for max 1 of Scottie and Rory in a lineup? Absolutely. So let's go to golf. Got golf slate tomorrow. I would open this up. And then I would go to rules. I would go to add new rule. I would go to group manual. Use no more than 1. I would click this edit players. And then I would go and find them. And then after clicking save, they're going to be added to the rule. So use no more than 1, Scottie, Rory, and then I click save. And now my rule is created, and then we'll just auto give it a name. So that is how I would do that rule. That should work out just fine for you. All right. Good stuff there. Let's take a peek in the office hours channel. And we will do a build demo for opening day tomorrow. All right. So loading up MLB here. Projections, ownership, check. All team totals in, settings. Not really going to mess with much. I'm going to lower a number of lineups just for time here. I'm really not going to mess around too much with minimax exposures. I'm not going to mess around too much with filters. I do like having on this don't use batters against opposing pitchers rule, which is like a default rule that we have. I think it's generally a good thing unless it's like a very small slate. But as far as setup here, that's all I'm really doing, right? Not doing too much else. So got that all set up. Question came in. Let's read this. Max said, question with using Contest Flashback when you build lineups and then sim, are the sim results based on projections or the current scores from that slate? Okay, so with Contest Flashback uses the SaberSim projections to grade lineups. Okay, so if you are using custom projections, it is not taking those into account. So, let's say you build lineups for MLB and then on Friday you come back and you want to look at these. Let's say you bumped up Skeens, 2 points, right? You went from 21 to say 23, right? Just rounding here. We will be grading lineups with him as if they are 21, which is like the SaberSim baseline. So understand custom projections aren't taken into account. Contest Flashback is using the pre-slate SaberSim projections. It is not using actual scores. It is not using live projections or anything like that, at least in Contest Flashback, right? So Flashback is like when the slate is over. The live leaderboards, when the contests are in play and we're trying to, see how we think your lineup's going to do by the end of the night, that is using the live data. So while the slate is in progress, we are using the live data. When the slate is over, we are using the SaberSim baseline projections to give you your sim ROIs, etc. All right. Good stuff there. Now, let's run a build here. So getting back to our build demo for MLB opening day. Going to build some lineups here. Let this run. Notice we already have our default contest sim set up over in the contest tab. So we're just going to use that, but you could upload an entries file if you want. Max said, perfect. Thank you. You're welcome. All right. Jumping back to this build. Letting the sims run. I've noticed, in case you guys noticed as well, analyzing simulations takes a little bit longer for MLB. It is because the correlation slider is so high. So if you guys are coming from NBA, correlations, down 2, 3, analyzing sims is a bit faster. When correlation is very high, it does take a little bit longer, that analyzing simulation screen. So just give it a second. It will still run. Good news is that with MLB, you have plenty of time to build lineups. Lineups are, always out 3 hours prior to lock. Typically, it's like 2 to 3 hours for sure. So should have ample time to, don't need to shave off 10 seconds to get your lineups in on time is kind of the point. All right. So build ran, lineups loaded. Contest sim ran automatically because we have this toggle on in the settings section. Run contest sims automatically after build. Check sorting by our default contest sim ROI. Check. I'm going to set up an average ROI aggregate metric. Check. Yeah, my average projection metric. Okay, cool. And we're about ready to rock and roll here, right? So pretty happy with the way this looks. Going to come in and sort. I want to sort by exposure. Okay, my exposure is over here. Not 100% sure why. But either way, we can move it back. Okay, exposure. Let's move this. Move a couple things I don't care too much about here. Bring the leverage back. So I'm just kind of customizing this. Remember, if you guys do move stuff around, it should stay where it is. If you move it once, it should hold for future slates. So you can set this up however you like. But this is the way I like to set it up. So here, I'm about ready to rock and roll, right? Got my exposures, my lineups. Now it's time to start making some decisions. So we're taking one big stand here on Hunter Green. And then, like, our top 3 exposures are all pitchers, right? 55%, 30, 30, and then no batter over 25%. So all this seems like pretty good, pretty happy with it. Generally, so MLB lineups, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 players in a lineup, you're going to be able to get to a higher number of min uniques. I like to try and just kind of jump to half. I'll go from 1 to 5, just see what kind of happens here, right? So it looks like kind of minimal impact, right? So we go at 1 min unique, we were at a projection of 93.1, ROI of 105. We jump up to 5, which is half of our lineup, and ROI only goes down 5%. Projection goes up a little bit. This is kind of normal because typically some of the higher ROI lineups are not the highest team totals, which are like the highest average projections. So kind of expect this sometimes to happen. Now, we go back and we re-verify our exposures, right? Well, our top exposure was 55%, but now it's down to 45. So a little bit flatter on Hunter Green, which is fine. We had him at pretty high leverage. We still do have him at high leverage, 32%. A little bit flatter on Skeens and Kikuchi, and then even a little bit flatter on some of our batter leverages, right? So we haven't even, we've barely sacrificed any ROI and gotten a lot of diversification. And then also the other thing here, right, is at 1 unique, we were at 87 players in our player pool. And then at 5, we are at 97 players in our player pool, right? So we've actually added 10 players to our player pool. So this is good. You could definitely try and go higher if you want. I don't mind this at all. Looks like we're taking a little bit of a stand on Cleveland here. We're taking a stand on Green. And then other than that, right, not too much high leverage across the board. We could check out team stacks, seeing Cleveland again, seeing Cincinnati kind of goes with Green, right? If Cincinnati does good, then more likely chance he gets like a win bonus. And then some other teams in here as well. If you want to get, really granular, you can look at the 4, 5, 2, and 3 stacks, see what's going on there. You can look at your stack exposures. I'm mostly trusting SaberSim here, right? And, we don't have less than a 3 stack. There is one lineup that is a 3-3-2. Our 19 other lineups are a 4 stack or better. So SaberSim is naturally stacking here due to the high correlation slider, right? Getting that done automatically. So I don't have to worry too much about it. So we see stacks, we see lineups making sense with exposures and combinations. And we've guaranteed some diversification. We didn't even max it out. And, where we got to was a number I was happy with leverage wise, right? You could increase it further if you want to be flatter, or you could manually change it, with one click of a button in the particular player's cell. Kind of up to you at this point, right? To customize your lineups, get them to look the way you want, where you are happy with the plays that you're going to be rooting for when the slate locks. Kind of cool. All the games lock within about 15 minutes. So when that happens, once we know all the lineups, then we can utilize the live leaderboard. So it's not like, some games are at, 7 Eastern and then the last games lock at 10 Eastern. No, they're all going to lock within 15 minutes, and then you'll be able to sweat your lineups, which will be super fun here on opening day. So hope you guys got some useful stuff out of this. I may change office hours time tomorrow. And just so you guys know, we typically do the show at 4 p.m. Eastern, but this slate starts 5 minutes after that. So, I don't know how useful that would be to do that. So I got to check, but I might move up the time to special occasion tomorrow to sometime sooner in the day where you can, ask questions before building, while building. I can answer them, show it on screen, slate demos and all that good stuff, and then give you guys plenty of time to build your opening day lineups. So probably going to do something like that tomorrow. We'll communicate that. We'll change show times in Discord and YouTube and all that, so you guys are aware, but want to give you a heads up. Aside from that, you're caught up here in the Discord and the YouTube chat. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow, time to be determined. But until then, everybody, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.